Hello, members of Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. How's everybody doing this evening? I hope everybody is doing great. As for me, I'm doing good this evening. I would like to say hi to everybody that's a member of Spiritual Encrypted Encounters on Facebook and on YouTube, and also those who look at my TikTok under ABCS. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. How you doing, Brother Kenneth? How you doing this evening? Uh, just sending some invites out, whoever would like to join to go live with me, here on Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. Whoever wants to share something or a story, you got the platform. All I got to do is hit the button. If whoever wants to go live, just give me the thumbs up, uh, or let me know, and I'll bring you onto the camera so we can talk. I send a couple of invites out to see who would like to join a conversation with me about how sometimes we have to be careful how we look at things. Sometimes things happen for a reason, and it's all about spiritual openings to me. um, I was seeing something that happened yesterday, I guess, dealing with a convention that happened up there in Tennessee, where I guess somebody supposedly stole somebody's material, and the individual call out the other individual and put him on blast, saying that he was a hoax person, that he stole the material from him. He was very upset. I am doing well, Brother Kenneth. I'm doing well. He was very upset about what this other guy, and that's one thing that I've noticed in the cryptic community, brother and sisters. That's not just in the cryptid, but like me, I share my videos, I make my videos. I'm a spiritual guy, and everybody knows this. You know how I am. And I've seen kind of like the same things happen with what I say and stuff like that. Like I had shared a story one time about this person that snuck up from behind me from out of the woods, and he was running kind of awkwardly, like he was manifesting of some sort or shape shifting, but he was a very tall person. And I turned around because I heard the pebbles fly past me. There was pebbles that flew past me on the highway, and I turned around and I had my guards up, because that meant that somebody was sneaking up behind me, and as fast as those pebbles were going, they must have been running at a high speed behind me. So I viewed and I got my guards up, and that uh, person stopped from running. He was charging at me. And I got in my guards up, and I asked him, "Why you sneak up? Why are you trying to sneak up on me?" And he wouldn't say nothing to respond to me. So I asked him, what his name was. He didn't respond to me, and the only thing he told me, Indiana. So as I kept on walking with him, I made sure he came parallel to me, and we were started walking side by side, and I kept to my side because I didn't want him to be walking behind me after what I witnessed, right? So as we walked towards the bridge, it seemed like there was like a time warp or a void where, as he was walking beside me, that everything was going slow motion, and there was like a vortex or a something dealing with time where everything was going slow motion on that bridge. How you doing, cousin Maria? How you doing, prima? Everything was going real slow on the bridge, and the cars that were passing by, they were moving real slow, and I could see something on the rail of the bridge, and it was translucent, where you could see through it, and he had like reddish eyes, and they were sitting on the rails of the bridge, and they were jumping into the vehicle and going into the people, and which it felt to me like they were feeding off their energy, the spiritual energy. So Indiana was looking at me, and I was seeing these things, looking, and he's just looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and as soon as we come out of this uh, energy warp or vortex, it's like all the vehicles start going fast and going moving fast and regular time, right? So I go to my destination, which was a store. It was a Family Dollar, and we went up the dry we went up the pavement to go to the store, and I turned around and faced Indiana because after witnessing that, something didn't feel right. So I'm looking at Indiana, he's looking at me, and I give him a handshake, and I look at him, and I said, it was nice knowing you, Indiana. As and I'm doing that, I'm praying within myself, the Our Father, because how everything happened, how he snuck up from behind me, and he told me a name, Indiana. Indiana, it's hard to believe for me that somebody's gonna call him Indiana, after he tried to sneak up from behind me. Uh, and as I started praying to Our Father within myself, I could see something within Indiana's face, in which the skin started cracking open. And I could see green underneath, and it looked like reptilian underneath, right? His eyes started changing different colors, like they looked different, didn't look like human eyes. And as I was praying to Our Father, his teeth changed, and they looked very sharp, like very sharp teeth, skinny, sharp teeth. So he let go of me, as I was praying to Our Father, and he looked at me and just looked up to the sky. And as I was looking at him, he turned around and walked away. So I walked into the store, and that was the last time I was in Indiana. Where I remember, like 2, 3 years later, after I shared my story, where about the incident with Indiana there in Elms Grove, there's somebody else. I was hearing a podcast, and there was a person trying to share a story. It wasn't the same story I shared, but it was using the name Indiana. I mean, and then to me, it's like I felt that he might have stolen. He heard my story because they said one of his friends told me that he was listening to my story. So they made up this. They're talking about a what do you call them? It was a cryptid, and they were using the name Indiana, and it's like it seemed too familiar to me that this guy's they contacted me through Messenger that they listened to my story of Indiana, and he was his friend, and I said, hey, I talked about Indiana. I know it's a different story, but it's using the name that I used. What happened to me, and he just laughed. So I could understand how somebody could be upset with somebody stealing your story or stealing your identity. There's a lot of identity theft, right? Where people can steal your identity or steal your personality. Where they're like actors and they're trying to be you, even though they might not have the spiritual aspect or have the personal relationship with the Heavenly Father. There's a lot of people that are fraudulent out there. Uh, and that's what comes to mind when I heard. Uh, I'm not going to say his name, but he was very upset yesterday, complaining about a certain individual that he was calling him a fraud, that he stole his story, and he was very upset, calling him out. And this happened dealing with the convention that happened in Tennessee, uh, the Dogman convention they had over there, saying that they stole his story, and he was really upset, really pissed off. He was, calling this guy out. I can relate to that. Like I said, it's happened to me with my stories. Or, I understand when people listen to your lives. I don't mind the wisdom that is shared is for people to know and understand to put it under their arsenal. But go back to the story. The reason he was upset was that he was saying that he's been doing research for about 40 years, that this guy stole his research and he was dealing with marking your territory or with dog your to show you're the dominant being, the alpha. Then they said he's been doing this work for 40 years and stuff like this. But all I know is dogs mark their territory. When they're trying to, and this is something that everybody knows. You know, it's not dealing with no research. Everybody knows if you have animals, right, and you have males, they mark their territory because they want to show dominance, right? Once one animal wants to be the alpha, right, and they urinate. So I could understand what he's talking about. You know, he's done this research, but this is something that everybody knows. You know, because dogs been marking their territory for centuries since the beginning of time. So it's not really that about research. That's just common sense, you know, where the animals do this. I remember when I was in training in California in Fort Owen, California, in NTC, where we were out there. It was back in 1991. We were out there, you know, and all these people that I know right now, I've never met them before. I've never seen their podcast. I've never had nothing. You know, I just came up in the scenery like in 2015. When I was in the military, you know, uh, our tank got surrounded what seemed to be coyotes or wolves up in California, where you could see the reddish eyes, and there was like I would say 30 of them surrounded our tank, and I could see the alpha standing in the middle, which was a dark one, right, and it was looking like it was like in charge of them. So my spiritual instinct told me mark your territory, urinate around the tank, you know, to so they can smell my scent, so they can know that this is my territory, right? No, and there's a lot of other shows even before that that I can remember. I think it was one dealing with I can't remember the name of the show. It was an old show from back in the day, from the '60s, I believe, and '70s, where you know they would talk about all these kind of things. But I marked my tank around, you know, I urinated around the tank. And once I did that, you know, because this animals they smell, right, their senses, smell senses are very keen. Uh, that when I did that, that they just turned around and walked away. They left the tank alone. But I marked my territory that way, and I believe I shared the story numerous times when I just came out in the scenery here on Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, on Lightworkers of the World, Lightworker Live Feeds, and other cryptic groups. You know, I've shared this story numerous times. You know, that's why one of the reasons I try not to listen too much to, how should I say, to podcasts or to other people. You know, kind of like when I got invited and I heard this guy talking a story about Indiana, and I was like, wait a moment, that's my story. I mean, not only this alien, right, is using the same name, you know, or whatever it is, right? It's possible, but when his friend contacted me through Messenger and he's telling me that they listened to my story and then they come up with this story, well, that's telling me that they made it up, right? And I was trying to let the people know, is like, wait a moment, that's my story. The people that have brought this guy on the podcast, right? So that's my story, but for some reason it's still within the picture, even though I sent him I sent him the proof of his friend sending me the messages through Messenger, right? Sending the message through Messenger saying that they were listening to my story, and all of a sudden they came up with this story, right? And he's sending me messages through Messenger, and I sent it to the people that I get invited because they were going to have him as a guest. And I was like, wait a minute, that's my story. And I showed them the proof that this guy was falsifying himself, that his story is not true, by showing him the proof of the messages that his friend was sending me, that they were listening to my story of Indiana, and all of a sudden they have this story about Indiana dealing with a rake, right? And I'm showing this proof, and I'm not even going to say his name. The only thing I'm going to say, his first name is Greg. I won't say his last name. In which this guy now he's like been coming out on different podcasts, trying to share his stories and of his encounters and all this, but he got the story from me, and I had showed the admins, of the group the proof, and it's like I can relate to the boy that's mad, that it's upset, but you know what? When he talks about that there's a lot of people that hoax, there's a lot of fraud people, he's right. There is a lot of people that are fraudulent. There's a lot of people that have fake stories. There's a lot of people I could say many things about them, but you know what? That's on them. If a person cannot be honest or be truthful, let them be how they are, because if if they don't have the experience or the knowledge when they go out there grounding boots, whatever's out there, right? And what I mean say whatever, because there's things out there. And here on Spiritual Encounter, you've seen my screenshots, you've seen my short reels. If that person is falsifying themselves to be this person and all this stuff, and they're really not about that, they're not going to be able to deal what's really out there. Like I said, I'm not going to mention no people's names. I'm just going by